Let's open.
Lasst uns mit ein Gebet öffnen.
Himmlischer Vater,
Dear Heavenly Father,
danke dir, dass du uns alle wieder zusammenrufst jetzt.
thank you that you've called us all here together.
Und bitte, Vater, hilf uns, öffne uns die Ohren und die Augen
And please, Father, open our eyes and our ears,
und vor allen Dingen unsere Herzen, Herr,
and above all, our hearts,
dass wir dem folgen können, was wir hören, und hilf uns, das zu verarbeiten und zu verdauen und zu verstehen.
that we can follow along what you say to us, that we can understand it and digest what you want to tell us.
Und dir gebührt alle Ehre, Herr, in Jesu Namen. Amen.
And all glory to you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Alright, so posted the notes, they're the same notes from yesterday.
Also die Notizen sind in den Livestream. Das sind dieselben Notizen, die wir gestern angeschaut haben.
And yesterday we looked at the 7 last plagues.
Gestern haben wir die 7 letzten Plagen angeschaut.
And when we just remind ourselves a little bit, let's go to Matthew 24.
Und nur zur Erinnerung, lass uns zu Matthäus 24 gehen.
And let's turn to verse 15.
Vers 15.
It says, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand." So, it says here surrounding Jerusalem, right?
So, das ist Sestius, der Jerusalem umzingelt.
And it's also 5:30.
Und es ist auch 5,38.
And then let's jump down to verse 21.
Und jetzt zu Vers 21.
"For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." Okay, so when this great tribulation comes, what will happen to this time?
So, wenn diese große Trübsal kommt, was wird mit dieser Zeit geschehen?
It shall be shortened.
Es
Right?
wird verkürzt werden.
And yesterday we looked at, this is why it says the great tribulation in history was the 1260.
Und gestern haben wir angeschaut, die große Trübsal, Ellen White sagt, das ist die 1260.
And but we also saw the great tribulation such as never was is the 7 last plagues. Right?
Und wir haben auch gesehen, dass diese große Trübsal, die Zeit nie gewesen war, ist auch die 7 letzten Plagen.
So the 1260 we understand is the Sunday law time period.
Und die 1260 verstehen wir, ist das Sonntagsgesetz Zeitperiode.
So that's our standard reform line here in the bottom, right?
Also das ist unsere Standardreformlinie hier unten.
We understand Cestius comes here at the beginning,
Und wir verstehen, dass Sestius kommt hier am Anfang an.
and the Great Tribulation begins 1260 of the Sunday law,
Und
right?
das große Trübsal fängt an, das Sonntagsgesetz.
Okay, so, but when we now bring this fractal, one fractal higher,
Aber wenn wir diese Fraktal eine höher bringen,
then we just have this,
und wir haben diese Stadt,
and this would be
und dann dieser Punkt hier
be down.
wäre
Hier.
dann dieser Endpunkt hier unten.
Okay, so basically here in this illustration, in this fractal that's one higher, you have both Sunday laws
So
illustrated.
in diesem Fraktal hier ein höher hat man 2 Sonntagsgesetzkrisen.
But it's still the same pattern, 2 times of trouble with a little time of peace in between.
Aber es ist dasselbe Muster wie hier, 2 Zeiten des Trübsals mit einer kleinen Zeit des Friedens in der Mitte.
Okay, and it's 2 1260s, right?
Und das wäre dann 2 1260er.
Okay, so and But this fractal, you can also bring another fractal higher.
Aber diese Fraktal kann man auch eine höher bringen.
Okay, and this would be then this illustration.
Das wäre dann diese Darstellung bis zu Ende.
Right? Yes?
Amen?
So this illustration here incorporates both these Sunday laws here.
So diese Darstellung hier beinhaltet beide Sonntagsgesetzkrisen.
So if you, that's just the first Sunday law for Adventism.
Das wäre dann das erste Sonntagsgesetz für das Adventismus.
And this would be for the world.
Das hier dann wäre das Sonntagsgesetz für die Welt.
Okay, and if you would mark it down here, this would be this final review and the little time of peace here. Right?
Wenn wir das so markieren würden, wäre das hier das finale Untersuchung und hier das kleine Zeit des Friedens.
Yes?
Amen?
Everybody can still follow?
Kann jeder soweit folgen?
Okay. So, and then you have basically the Sunday law crisis, and what begins after the Sunday law crisis is the 7 last plagues. Right?
Dann hat man die Sonntagsgesetzkrisen und was danach geschieht, ist die 7 letzten Plagen.
Okay, but we understand the death decree is not issued right away when the 7 last plagues begin.
Und wir verstehen, dass der Todesdekret wird nicht gleich sofort erlassen am Anbeginn der 7 letzten Plagen.
Okay, let us just remind ourselves of this.
Lasst uns zur Erinnerung,
I will just post this quote.
ich werde ein Zitat posten.
Okay. So it's from taken from early writings.
Das ist von Frühschriften entnommen.
It says, I saw that the 4 angels would hold the 4 winds until Jesus' work was done in the sanctuary. And then will come the 7 last plagues. So she speaks now about the close of preparation when the 7 last plagues come.
So, sie spricht über den Schluss der Gnadenzeit, wo die 7 letzten Plagen kommen.
It says, these plagues enraged the wicked against the righteous. They thought that we had brought the judgments of God upon them, and that if they could rid the earth of us, the plagues would then be stayed. A decree went forth to slay the saints, which caused them to cry day and night for deliverance. This was the time of Jacob's trouble. So when does the time of Jacob's trouble begin?
So wann fängt der Zeit von den Trübsal von Jakob? Death Decree.
Yes, when the death decree is issued.
Wenn das Todesdekret erlassen wird.
So the 7 last plagues begin to fall,
So die 7 letzten Plagen fängen an zu fallen.
but it's only after they pass now the death decree that the time of trouble again begins. Right?
Aber es ist nur nachdem sie den Todesdekret erlassen, dass der Zeit des Trübsal fängt an.
So it's Jacob's trouble.
So Jakobs Trübsal.
Okay, and here they cry day and night for deliverance. Right?
Und hier rufen sie Tag und Nacht für Befreiung.
Okay, and so what I want to just show them that we have always the same pattern, right?
Also das, was ich zeigen möchte, ist, dass wir immer wieder denselben Muster haben.
So each box you can basically stretch out, right?
Also jeder Kasten kann man im Grunde ausdehnen.
And you always have the same pattern.
Und es gibt immer denselben Muster darin.
Okay, and for instance, if you take this Sunday law, it's the same as taking this Sunday law.
Also da wir hier diesen Sonntagsgesetz hier ausgedehnt, konnten wir genau dasselbe mit diesem so hier ausdehnen.
So these boxes are, in a sense, the same, right? They are the same pattern.
Also diese Kasten sind alle denselben Muster.
So therefore, this box is this here,
So diese Kasten ist das Ganze hier.
but this box, if you would stretch it out, would be then this here. Okay.
Aber diese Kasten hier, wenn wir es ausdehnen, ist das, was wir hier oben haben. Und so in etwa.
Yes. Okay, and therefore, basically, you have again the same pattern in this time of Jacob's trouble.
So dann wieder hat man denselben Muster in diese Zeit von Jakobs Trübsal.
That has to mark a point then when they surround you.
Yes.
Also
Exactly.
das muss ein Punkt markieren, wo sie dir umzingeln.
This would be then Cestius in this sense.
Das wäre dann Cestius sozusagen.
Yeah, Cestus would typify it, but
Yes, yes.
when they surround you, that would have been typified by that event.
Sorry?
So when they surround you in the 7 last plagues, it would have been typified by Cestus.
Yes.
Also wenn die dich während der 7 letzten Plagen umzingeln, das war vorausgeschattet durch Cestius.
Yes. Because in Matthew 24 it says, right, when we go back there,
In Matthäus 24, wenn wir da zurückgehen, es sagt,
in verse 15,
Vers 15,
it says, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. So, and this was Cestius, right?
das war Cestius.
And then it says, verse 21,
Vers 21 sagt,
for then, when Cestius comes, shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So Cestius, in a perfect sense, illustrates this point here. Okay.
so Cestius auf perfekte Weise stellt diesen Zeitpunkt hier dar.
Or in this line, this here. Okay.
Und in dieser Linie, das wäre dann diesen
Okay,
Punkt
it's
hier.
the time of Jacob's trouble.
Zeit von den Trübsal von Jakob.
So, and all these other 1260s is just the type for this type of Jacob's trouble.
All diese anderen 1260er sind alle nur Typen für diese Zeit hier.
Yes?
Und Jakobs
Can
Trübsal.
everybody follow the
Kann jeder
pattern?
folgen?
Okay. So basically, therefore, when Cestius comes here,
So wenn Cestius hier ankommt,
the Sunday law,
am Sonntagsgesetz,
this is a time of Jacob's trouble, right?
das ist dann eine Zeit von Jakobs Trübsal.
But it's not the time of Jacob's trouble.
Aber es ist nicht die Zeit von Jakobs Trübsal.
It's just a type for this. Right?
Es ist nur ein Typus dafür.
Okay. Because what does the Lord want to do when they pass the Sunday law?
Denn was möchte der Herr tun, wenn sie ein Sonntagsgesetz erlassen?
Okay, let us just go to Psalms
Oder ist das was?
119.
Gehen wir zum Psalm 119.
And then verse 126.
Vers 126.
Okay. Somebody want to read? Maybe Brother Mark, can you read this for us, please?
Where am I reading? I was posting that quote.
Psalms 119.
Yeah.
126.
And then 126.
It is time for thee, Lord, to work, for they have made void thy law.
Yes. Okay, so where would this be?
Wo wäre denn das sein?
Yes,
When they make void the law of God. Yes, it is in there.
yes, exactly. It's Sunday law, right?
Das ist am Sonntagsgesetz, wo die das Gesetz Gottes außer Kraft setzen.
Okay. So if everybody knows and understands this, then I don't have to prove it with a quote.
So,
I have
wenn
a
jeder
quote
das
here to-
weiß und versteht, dann muss ich es mit einem Zitat nicht beweisen.
Okay. So when they make void the law, that's at the Sunday law, right? And it's actually the time now for God to work. Okay.
Wenn die das Gesetz, am Sonntagsgesetz außer Kraft setzen, das ist die Zeit, dass der Herr wirken soll.
It's when the saints are crying out to the Lord in the time of Jacob's trouble.
Yes.
Es ist, wenn den Heiligen dem Herrn rufen, zur Zeit von Jakobs Trübsal.
And we understand, right? But what does Jesus do here when probation is still possible?
Aber was tut Jesus hier, solange das Gnadezeit oder Probezeit noch offen
Let's
ist?
go to yes, Revelation 7. Right?
So, jetzt zur Offenbarung 7.
Holds the wind.
Says, and after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God, of our God, in their foreheads. So, and Sister White comments on this. What were the angels about to do?
Und Ellen White, sie kommentiert darauf, und was waren die Engel
Im Begriff zu tun.
im Griffe zu tun?
Let the winds go.
Yes, they wanted to let the winds go, right?
Sie wollten die Winde loslassen.
Okay, so God was about to pour out the 7 last plagues, but then it says, hold, 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 hold.
Gott war im Griff, die 7 letzten Plagen loszulassen, aber die Engel sagen, halte, halte, haltet, haltet.
It's right here at the Sunday law,
Das
right?
ist gerade hier am Sonntagsgesetz.
Because the servants of God need to be sealed, and when do you get sealed?
Weil die Diener Gottes müssen versiegelt werden. Und wann werden sie versiegelt? When they've gone through the image of the beast.
Yes,
Also nachdem sie durch den Bild des Tieres Test durchgegangen
which is
sind.
the Sunday law test.
Was das Sonntagsgesetz Test ist.
Okay, so but here the winds are then fully loosed, right?
Aber hier, die Winde werden vollständig losgelassen.
Not quite. Because it's typifying something, the 4 winds being held there, right?
Also nicht ganz, weil es hier die 4 Winde, die gehalten werden, schattet irgendetwas hier voraus.
So I posted a quote from one spiritual gifts. It's about this point right there where the death decree comes.
Also ich habe ein Zitat gepostet, das ist von 1SG. Und das spricht gerade über diesen Punkt hier.
It says, I saw the saints leaving the cities and villages and associating the companies together and living in the most solitary places. Angels provided them food and water, but the wicked were suffering with hunger and thirst. Then I saw the leading men of earth consulting together, and Satan and his angels were busy around it. I saw a writing and copies of it scattered in different parts of the land, giving orders that unless the saints should yield their peculiar faith, give up the Sabbath, and observe the first day, they were at liberty after such a time to put them to death. So, it's a death decree, the evil angels are surrounding it, right?
So ist ein Todesdekret und böse Engel umkreisen sie.
But in this time the saints were calm and composed, trusting in God and leaning upon his promise, that a way of escape would be made for them. That's what happens at the Sunday law. When the sign comes, you're waiting for the way of escape.
Also das ist genau das, was am Sonntagsgesetzkrise passiert. Also das Zeichen kommt, aber du wartest auf einen Ausweg.
In some places, before the time for the writing to be executed, the wicked rushed upon the saints to slay them. But angels in the form of men of war fought for them. Satan wished to have the privilege of destroying the saints of the Most High, but Jesus bade his angels watch over them, for God would be honoured by making a covenant with those who had kept his law in the sight of the heathen round about them. And Jesus would be honoured by translating the faithful waiting ones who had so long expected them without to see death. So those angels are holding back those evil, wicked people who want to rush and get you.
Also diese Engel an dieser Stelle, die halten diese böse Volksmenge zurück, die sie stürmen wollen, um sie umzubringen.
Yes. Okay. Maybe that's marking this little time of peace.
No, that's marking this time of peace.
Zesde is rond.
I mean, when they passed the death decree, right?
Also die haben das Todesdekret erlassen
and they basically appoint a date in this death decree, right?
und die haben ein Datum in diesem Todesdekret bestimmt.
The death is future. The deed is future.
Yes, it's
Und
future.
dieser
Right?
Tag, diese Datum ist Zukunft,
Points forward, but they try to kill them already earlier.
Yes,
Right?
before.
aber die versuchen noch davor, sie umzubringen.
But the
So-
angels hold it back.
Yes, so
Aber die Engel halten es zurück.
maybe that's this little time of peace here where they hold them back, you know. Might be.
Why would it be when they're hold at the Sunday law?
You got to have it prefigured
It'd
there.
have to be on the same way mark, right?
The thing is, when this is the beginning of the next chapter. The chapter prior to that is when they close of probation, when they flee to the mountains. That's
Also
that
der
time of peace there.
Kapitel gerade hier vor, diese ist, wenn sie zu den Bergen flüchten.
So it brings you to the next waymark. So anyway, maybe I'm not going to see that. But all I'm saying is, if there's angels holding something back there, they're holding something back
Also
there.
das, was ich sehe, ist, wenn Engel hier was zurückhalten, dann auf denselben Wegmarke hier halten die Engel was zurück. Und davor wäre dann eine kleine Zeit des Friedens. Es wäre an diese Wegmarke, wo sie zu den Bergen flüchten.
Yes.
In dem Sinne.
Okay, so right, then let's go with this pattern first.
So, lasst uns diesem Muster vorerst folgen.
Holding back. Okay.
Is the meaning of men consulting together some kind of
Confederacy.
yes,
Yes.
confederacy, so maybe we can mark.
Yeah, that's would be in here, right?
Yeah.
That's when they consult together and pass this death decree here.
Also das wäre dann ein Bündnis, was wir hier, wenn Männer zusammenkommen, das ist wie ein Bündnis und das wäre dann hier. Die passen diesen Todesdekret hier, was auch das ist.
Yeah, maybe you're right, but we'll see. But I will have to look through this closely.
Okay, so all right. Anyways, so we can see basically then this is this time of Jacob's trouble here,
Und wir können sehen, auf jeden Fall, das hier ist der Zeit von Jakobs Trübsal.
and in this time of trouble, what do you manifest there?
Und in dieser Zeit des Trübsals, was ist es, was du da manifest machst?
Yes, your character,
Also
right?
Charakter.
So it's perfectly demonstrated that you can live in the sight of a holy God without an intercessor.
Also es wird vollkommen offenbar werden, dass du in ein heiliges Leben kann ohne einen Fürsprecher.
Okay, and how or in which way must you demonstrate it?
Und auf welche Art musst du das zeigen oder demonstrieren?
Okay, yes. But
You're going to be tempted.
so what will you prove in this time?
Also was wirst du in dieser Zeit beweisen?
What will God
Faith and,
what will God prove to the whole universe for all
All
eternity?
this law. Was
He will-
werde Gott denn zu der ganzen Universum beweisen? He's righteous.
He will prove that his plan of salvation is perfect, right?
Er wird beweisen, dass sein Erlösungsplan perfekt
And what
ist.
is his plan of salvation?
Und was ist sein Erlösungsplan? Christ in you, the hope of glory.
Yes, but you
We're going
way
to
off.
go across.
Yes, okay. But the everlasting gospel is how many steps?
Also das ewige Evangelium sind wie viele Schritte?
3 steps,
3
right?
Schritte.
Or
Oder? 7 Thunder.
the yes, 7 thunders.
Oder
Yes.
7 Donner.
So he will bring you through the 7 thunders one more time.
So,
Okay.
er wird dich durch diese 7 Donnern ein weiteres Mal bringen,
In order to demonstrate now that you perfectly obey without an intercessor these 7 thunders.
zu demonstrieren, dass du auf perfekte Weise gehorchen, ohne eine Fürbitte, diese 7 Donner.
So that's why I'm positive that this is a correct pattern here.
Also deswegen bin ich überzeugt, dass das hier eine korrekte Muster ist.
So I don't profess to know how to place all these things in there yet.
Selbst wo ich noch nichts behauptet zu wissen, wie man alles da rein platziert.
Okay. But you can see and understand the logic.
Aber ihr konntet sehen und verstehen den Logik, die dahinter steckt.
Yes?
Amen.
So, alright. Now let's go back to the quote, the notes.
So, zurück zu den Notizen.
And we read a few quotes yesterday, basically that the time is shortened and that it's the 7 last plagues, this baptism and this cup that they have to drink, right?
Wir haben gestern gesehen, dass die Zeit verkürzt wird. Die 7 letzten Plagen sollen sie diesen Kelch trinken.
And it's also the baptism.
Und es ist auch die Taufe.
And also the angels, what do the angels want to do in this time?
Auch die Engel, was wollen die tun in dieser
The
Zeit?
good angels.
For the help.
Yes, they want to come and deliver you, right?
Sie möchten kommen und zu deiner Hilfe eilen.
But there's this tall commanding angel and says, wait, they first have to be baptized and drink the cup, right?
Es gibt diese große befehlende Engel, der sagt, wartet, die mussten zuerst getauft werden, die mussten diesen Kelch trinken.
And so what time was it therefore for the saints?
So, was war das denn für eine Zeit für den Heiligen?
When they had to wait for the deliverance.
Anguish. Wenn sie für ihre Befreiung erwarten
It was a
sollten.
tarrying time, right?
Eine Verzögerungszeit.
Okay. So basically we saw already this tarrying times, right?
Das hier, wie wir bereits gesehen haben, das ist diese Verzögerungszeit.
And when you parallel this here with the son-in-law, right?
Wenn du das hier mit dem Sonntagsgesetz parallel setzt,
The son-in-law is also parallel to April 19th in the Reform
das
Nights, right?
Sonntagsgesetz ist auch ein Parallel zum 19. April auf den Reformlinien.
Which is marking the tarrying time.
Und 19. April, Millerzeit, markiert der Verzögerungszeit.
Yes, everybody
Amen.
can follow. Okay. Good. So, but now let's come to another point where we stopped yesterday.
Jetzt ein weiteres Punkt, da wo wir gestern aufgehört haben.
And let's go to page 3.
Und wir gehen zur Seite 3 in den Notizen.
Page 3. Okay, and let's read this quote from GC 623.3.
Und wir lesen den Zitat von Großer Kampf 623.3.
It says, the Apostle John, okay, and everybody there?
Jeder da?
6 on page 3, 623.3. There she speaks also about the 7 last plagues.
Hier spricht sie auch über die 7 letzten Plagen.
It says, the Apostle John, in vision, heard a loud voice in heaven exclaiming, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Revelation 12:12. Fearful are the scenes which call forth this exclamation from the heavenly voice. The wrath of Satan increases as his time grows short, and his work of deceit and destruction will reach its culmination in the time of trouble. Okay? So when will Satan's power to deceive and to destroy be at its height?
So, wann werde die Kraft Satans zu verführen und zu zerstören seinen Gipfel erreichen?
What does it say?
Was sagt es?
Yes, in time of trouble.
Zur Zeit des
In the
Trübsals.
7 last plagues. Okay?
Für die 7 letzten Plagen.
Okay, now go back to Matthew 24.
Jetzt gehen wir zu Matthäus 24 zurück.
Let us remind ourselves.
Zur Erinnerung.
Okay. Verse 21
Vers 21.
says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So speaking about now this great tribulation, right?
Spricht hier über diese große Trübseichen.
Okay. But also about this great tribulation, the Sunday, right?
Aber auch über diese Trübsal, der Sonntagsgesetz.
Okay. in verse 22.
Vers 22.
And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Okay? So, what happens with the Great Tribulation?
So was geschieht mit der großen Trübsal?
Shall be shortened. Right?
Es wird verkürzt werden.
Okay, so when we go according to this pattern, it should be here.
So
Okay,
wenn wir nach diesem Muster hier gehen, das sollte denn hier geschehen.
okay. And which would be then in this sense a parallel to the midnight cry,
In
right?
diesem Sinne, das wäre eine Parallel zur Mitternachtsruhe.
Okay.
That has to be the beginning, or the end of the sixth plague, the beginning of the seventh plague.
Das muss denn das Ende der 6., Anfang der 7. Plage sein.
Because let's read now verse 23.
Lass uns jetzt Vers 23
It
lesen.
says, then, when?
Wann?
Then,
Dann,
when the days are shortened, right?
wenn diese Tage verkürzt werden.
So, right here,
Gerade hier.
it says, then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in this desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay, so what can we therefore expect here to take place?
So was können wir erwarten, dass hier stattfindet?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're going to try last deception.
Yes, Satan's last deception.
Satans letzte Verführung.
So,
He's going to come as an angel of light and say, okay, your trial's done.
yes.
Er wird als Engel des Lichtes kommen und sagen, so, euer Test ist vorüber.
Because we also place it here at the midnight cry, right?
Und wir markieren das auch hier an der Mitternachtsruf.
So, but this is where he will quickly come. Okay.
Aber hier wird er kommen.
There's one point that needs to be considered is because the false prophets, right, that arise here,
Also die falschen Propheten, die hier aufkommen,
you know, it's a parallel to the sixth plague,
das ist eine Parallel zum 6. Plage,
where the threefold union, which is the false prophet, comes up.
wo der dreifaltige Union, was der falsche Prophet ist,
That's
kommt
what
heraus.
we have the sixth seal at that.
So then, because when we say that the point where it's shortened is where the false prophets come, according to Matthew 24, then
Also gemäß Matthäus 24, wenn wir sagen, dass das der Zeitpunkt ist, wo die falschen Propheten aufkommen,
then it has to be the sixth, right?
dann muss der 6.
Because the seventh plague is already where he says it is done and you are delivered.
And
Weil
it's
der
midnight,
7.
it says.
Plage ist da, wo er sagt, es ist vollbracht und du bist erlöst.
Midnight would be the end way mark.
Mitternacht werde denn das Endwegmarke sein.
Okay, so if this would be the sixth plague,
Wenn das hier der 6. Plage wäre,
That would be the fifth at the beginning.
that's then,
das wäre denn hier der 5. sein am Anfang.
Okay, and
and
that's what.
then that's okay.
We can't have the
No,
first
no,
and fourth.
you
and-
can't
To
do
be
the
1 4 from here, right?
Yeah, okay.
So what, I think it's something like 1 to 3 and that's the fourth there, but we have to work it out.
Also wir können das nicht sagen, dass 1 bis 4 hier ist, weil es fängt hier an in der kleinen Zeit des Friedens davor, der 1 bis 4.
But we don't know under which plague they will pass the death decree, right?
Aber wir wissen nicht, unter welche Plage die das Todesdekret.
The keys are in the plagues, there must be.
Yes. Maybe it's still under the first plague, maybe.
Still the death decree, even if it is under the first decree, right? The death decree doesn't mark the point where the plagues begin. The plagues are falling,
Yes,
and then
yes.
the death decree becomes. So
Also die
whatever.
Plagen fallen und dann kommt das Todesdekret. Also
So we can't be, even if it's still the first plague, the plague begins before this death decree.
Yes.
selbst wenn es unter den ersten Plage ist, der Plage fängt an, bevor der Todesdekret erlassen
Well,
ist.
so the point is, you can know where the fifth is, you can know where the sixth is, you know where the seventh is. And those points in it must be a little marker in there. You must be able to know where they're going to fall.
Also der Logik ist von Bruder Mark, da wir den 5., 6. und 7. markieren können, dann es wäre nur der logische Schlussfolgerung zu sagen, dass wir den 1. bis 4. auch markieren können.
Yes. Okay, so alright, but so far we can see the pattern, right?
Aber soweit können wir den Muster folgen, richtig?
Okay, so now let's go to this next quote.
So lasst uns zu diesem nächsten Zitat kommen.
Because when we come to the Sunday law, right?
Denn wenn wir zur Sonntagsgesetz ankommen,
How many times do we have false prophet marked?
wie viele Male gibt es falsche Propheten, die markiert sind?
2 times, right?
Zweimal.
So based upon Matthew 24 at the beginning and here. Yeah?
So gemäß Matthäus 24 ist es einmal hier am Anfang und dann einmal hier.
So here it's Satan's last deception, it's this false Christ.
So hier Satans letzte Täuschung, das ist ein falsches Christus.
And here also have false prophets.
Und hier haben wir auch falsche Propheten markiert.
Okay. Yes, Philip?
If I can disturb a little bit, the fourth plague, it's the Sunday law crisis.
Also der 4. Plage ist das Sonntagsgesetzkrise.
It says here, the fourth angel poured out in Revelation 16, verse 8.
Also wenn wir zur Offenbarung 16, Vers 8 gehen.
8 and 9.
Offenbarung 16, die Verse 8 und 9.
So it's similar description like with the two witnesses in Revelation 11.
Dann ist es ähnlich Beschreibung mit den 2 Zeugen von Offenbarung 11.
Do you want to read this?
Yes, the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch man with fire. And man was scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name which had power over the plagues, and they repented not to give.
You have power to bring down fire.
Yeah, they
So
have
often as
power
you-
over the plagues.
Also sie haben Power oder Kraft über die Plagen.
And it says they were scorched with great heat,
Und es sagt hier, sie waren verzehrt mit großer Hitze.
which is James chapter 1,
Was Jakobus Kapitel 1
which
wäre,
is the midnight cry,
was der Mitternachtsruf
because it says in James 1 verse 11.
wäre. Denn es sagt in Jakobus 1, Vers 11,
Because we make the parallel, this death decree, which is parallel to the midnight cry, goes up to the.
denn dieses Todesdekret, der parallel zum Mitternachtsruf ist hier.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in the 2 lines below. You have Sunday law, midnight cry.
Yeah.
And it says here in verse 11,
Und es sagt hier in Vers 11,
for the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat. Right? So, this burning heat, this great heat.
also der Sonne ist kaum aufgegangen mit diesen verzehrenden Hitze.
Where are you reading?
In James chapter 1 verse 11.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought it was in Genesis 15, because that's...
Genesis 15.
The heat of the day.
No, that's... There's this, doesn't, maybe I'm thinking something different.
Genesis 15 is Abraham.
No.
You mean the fiery first, the
Yes, the...
burning.
It says, it came to pass that when the sun went down, that it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and burning passed between those pieces.
Because it's the captivity of Egypt.
Well, it's the sun going down, it's marking the Passover, right?
Also wenn die Sonne runtergeht, das markiert der Passa.
Smoking furnace, not one of them, doesn't matter, sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
yes, so,
Before at least.
okay, this might be valid,
Also
that the
das
4th begins here.
möge vielleicht gültig sein, dass der 4. hier anfängt.
Because when you go to the plagues, you can see the first 3 are in a row,
Yes,
and then there's this pause, then the 4th comes,
yes,
and says they repented not, then the 5th comes, says they repented not,
yes.
and then the 6th comes, and then a pause in the 7th.
Wenn man die Plagen so liest, also die ersten 3 werden aufgezählt und dann kommt der 4., es gibt so eine Pause zwischen der 3. und 4. Und unter der 4. sagt, dass sie kein Buße tat, unter den 5. kein Buße tat und unter den 6. kein Buße tat.
But the 6th it doesn't say
Doesn't say. Also es gibt eine Pause zwischen der 6. und 7. jedenfalls.
Okay, so we have to validate this, but I will just mark this and put it in brackets, so we have to still
Also wir
test.
müssen das noch prüfen, aber wir machen es hier vorerst, aber wir tun es in Klammern, so als wäre das noch in Frage.
Yes, I mean, also these we still have to.
No, the 6th, you can, if you just go to verse 12.
Also Vers 12, where are you?
In Revelation 16.
In Offenbarung 16, Vers 12.
The 6th angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up. That's a parallel to the midnight cry.
Yes.
Also Vers 12, das ist parallel zu der Mitternacht.
That's the masterpiece of his deception.
Yes, yes, yes. Good.
Das ist der Meisterwerk seiner Verführung.
Yes. Okay. Alright, so that's pretty solid then. Okay, so now let's go back to the notes
Also zurück zur Notizen.
and let's read the last quote on page 3.
Also der letzte Zitat auf Seite 3,
It's from MS 79
MS 79.
and speaks about the final review.
Er spricht hier über die finale Untersuchung.
Okay, so be here. Okay,
Das werde denn hier sein.
so let's read this.
Lass uns das lesen.
Angels will be round about us wherever we go. Every one of us needs to have a connection with Jesus Christ and to do the works of God. We want to be wide awake, full of zeal and love for God, advancing step by step heavenward. Are we prepared for the grand review? So the grand review is also the final review.
Also diese große Untersuchung, das ist auch die finale Untersuchung.
It is coming on. Satan is gathering up his grand knowledge that he had when he was an angel of light, and he's coming in to deceive the very elect with that very knowledge. Okay, so she's pointing to the grand review and then connects it with that Satan is coming to deceive the very elect.
Also sie weist auf der finale Untersuchung, diese große Untersuchung, und verbindet es damit, dass Satan kommt, um den Auserwählten zu täuschen.
We want to be in a position that we can work intelligently, we can work in faith, we can work outside of just our little compass and bring to souls a knowledge of the truth. Satan is preparing his company for the review. Okay, so he's preparing his company for the final review, right?
So, bildet seine Lager aus oder bereitet seine Lager vor für diesen Untersuchung.
So for the yes, so he prepares his company for here, right?
So bereitet sie gerade hier vor.
Yes. So Satan is preparing his company for the review that will take place when he tells them that he's going to take all the world for his subjects. Okay, so what is he going to tell?
So was wird er sagen?
Yeah. All the world will be his subjects. Okay.
Dass die ganze Welt seine Untertanen sein wird.
And what story comes in your mind where he said it?
Und welche Geschichte kommt zur Erinnerung, als er das gesagt hat? Das ist die Geschichte von Hiob.
So let's go to Job, chapter 1.
So lasst uns zu Hiob Kapitel 1.
Why you put that?
I will explain. It's at the final review, right? So
Yes, but he's going to counterfeit his own final review. Because it does not say that he doesn't know what's been passed in heaven. He doesn't know when the Lord's doing the final review.
no.
But he's doing his own. Is that not his last deception?
I mean, she says she ties it together with a genuine final review, right? So that's when he's.
Well, I mean,
But let me just explain how I understand it, and I'm open for corrections. Okay. So in Job chapter 1,
So in Hiob Kapitel 1.
okay, Job comes before the Lord, right?
Job comes before.
Satan comes before the Lord.
Also Satan kommt vor dem Herrn.
And verse 7 it says, And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it.
Vers 7.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and endureth evil. So
Vers 8.
Satan comes now before the Lord, and basically he claims the world as his. Right?
Satan kommt vor dem Herrn und nimmt die Erde in Anspruch als seins.
But what does God say?
Aber was sagt Gott?
I still have Job.
Ich
Right?
habe immer noch Hiob.
And Satan is now permitted to go and come down to test Job.
Und
Right?
Satan wird die Erlaubnis gegeben, zu gehen, herabzukommen und Hiob zu testen.
And when he comes down and tests Job, what does it mark? What begins there?
Und wenn er herunterkommt und Hiob testet, was fängt da an? Time of trouble.
Yeah, time of trouble.
Zeit
Right?
des Trübsals.
And we know it's here the first test of the Sunday law.
Und wir
Right?
verstehen, dass das erste Test des Sonntagsgesetzes Krise ist.
So Satan comes and claims the whole world in this little time of peace. Right? This is when he appears before God.
Vor dem Herrn und beansprucht die Welt als seins in diese kleine Zeit des Friedens. Da, in dieser Zeit kommt er vor dem Herrn.
And then he is allowed to come down and bring a time of trouble.
Dann ist es ihm erlaubt, herabzukommen und eine Zeit des Trübsals zu bringen.
So that's why I would mark it here that he now, as this word says, when the review comes, the final review, he will claim all the world as his subjects.
So deswegen mag ich es hier, weil Ellen White sagt in den Zitat, an der finalen Untersuchung, er wird kommen und die ganze Welt als seine Untertanen im Anspruch
And
nehmen.
we understand the story of Job perfectly also illustrates the 7 last plagues.
Und wir
Right?
verstehen, dass die Geschichte von Hiob die 7 letzten Plagen genau beschreibt.
I'm wondering, you know, at the start of Job, you have these two tests.
Also am Anfang von Hiob gibt es diese 2 Tests.
Okay, that's the Sunday law crisis.
Das ist
Right?
die Sonntagsgesetzkrise.
And then it follows on with these people testing. I wonder if that's the 7 last plagues. I wonder if this whole story here is the test of the Sunday law
Dann-
followed by the 7 last plagues, because Elihu's
Dann-
definitely
Nach
coming here.
den ersten 2 Kapiteln von Hiob, also meine Gedanke, die ich ausspreche, ist, dass alles, was darauf folgt, ist die 7 letzten Plagen, denn das wäre dann, wir sehen hier Elihu, Satan's last deception. Ja,
Yes.
das wäre dann, also wenn meine Gedanken richtig wäre, dann Elihu wäre hier.
I mean, it's definitely got both connotations in there, but it's wonder why the structure, wonder why the whole book is structured the way it is. Because there's 2 tests, it's the Sunday law crisis, right?
Die 2 Tests sind das Sonntagsgesetzkrise, die sind am Anfang.
But then somehow he goes through the whole thing in a much greater degree. Which
Ah.
would be like this.
Danach geht er durch das Gesamte in einem viel tieferen Ausmaß.
Yes, but doesn't this word say that Job is also illustrating 7 last plagues?
Also sagt Ellen White das nicht klar heraus, dass Hiob die 7 letzten Plagen,
That's what I'm saying now.
Yes, but the whole book of Job.
oder das ganze Buch Hiobs.
I mean, that's at least how I was understood it, but maybe I'm wrong. But anyways,
So okay, where would you put the test at the beginning?
what exactly do you mean with the 2
Under
tests?
the-
Well, the 2 tests is the whole.
The 2
test.
times when Satan comes
Yes,
down.
just the 2 times of trouble.
Yes.
So after what he's saying is like after chapter 2, the rest of the book of Job is a repeat and enlarge of 1 and 2.
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, it would have to be.
It would have to be why.
It would have to be because 1 and 2 is the complete Sunday law crisis, which is the complete 7 last plagues.
Okay, then your answers are premising on whether that's correct. I'm not saying that. It doesn't matter. I'm saying it's structured a certain way for a reason, but I'm not saying that I understand the reason. I'm just asking a question.
Okay, Hiob ist so aufgebaut auf auf eine gewisse Art und da ist auch ein Grund dafür. Aber
Okay, let us not labor on this point now because we just go off in a different direction. But we can agree that Satan comes in a little time of peace, claims the whole world as his, and then he's allowed to come down in trouble. Right?
also Satan kommt zur kleinen Zeit des Friedens, nimmt den Welt für seins in Anspruch und ist erlaubt herabzukommen und eine Zeit des Trübsals zu bringen.
Okay, so therefore I would suggest it's here where she says at the final review he comes and claims the world as his.
Und ich
Okay.
schlage vor, dass es hier ist an der finalen Untersuchung, wo er kommt und die Welt als seins in Anspruch nimmt.
But God's people still have a little time of peace, but here Satan now comes down and the time of Jacob's trouble starts.
Also Gottes Volk sind immer noch in einer kleinen Zeit des Friedens, aber hier kommt Satan herab und fügt sie in diese Zeit von Jakobs Trübsal.
Because we saw that when the death decree comes, they now start crying day and night for deliverance.
Wir haben gesehen, als der Todesdekret kommt, da fängt Gottes Volk an zu rufen, Tag und Nacht für ihre Befreiung.
I thought I know that we, at one point we understood the walking to and fro is a trouble, but we also came to understand that it's Goliath walking up and down in the time of peace. So, is it not at the end of that period? Satan's been walking up and down, comes at the end, and the Lord says, "Hast thou seen my servant Job?" And it's right there where He allows him to come down and test him.
Okay, that might be also valid. Yes.
Also es wäre dann auch vielleicht möglich, dass das hier ist.
Okay, it doesn't really change much because the only point I want to put in place is that Satan will now claim.
That's the point I'm making. If it's at the end, when you put it above right there, it's Satan's last deception. He's going to come,
And
play the role of the judge, right? And he's going to try pretend to do this final review, and he's, laying out. I think this is what Elihu is about, but it's just a thought.
Yes, I mean, Sister White, she has quotes where she says, at the Sunday law, Satan will claim all the world as his.
Also Ellen White hat Zitaten, wo sie sagt, am Sonntagsgesetz, Krise Satan wird die gesamten Welt als seins beanspruchen.
So here we can be sure that he also will do the same.
So hier können wir sicher sein, dass er auch hier dasselbe tun
Okay,
wird.
and obviously here also.
Und
Right?
dann hier auch.
That's the 2 points where he does it, right?
Also diese zweimal, wo er das tut, falsche Propheten und falsche Propheten.
Okay, so let's just. But
I mean, it would also be somewhat strange that at the close of probation, where Christ blots out the sins of people, Satan then turns up and claims the word as his own.
Yes. This must be at the beginning of the trial.
okay, marking this point. Okay,
Also markiert diesen Wegmarke hier.
okay, and also the same here.
Und dasselbe dann wieder hier.
Okay, now let's go to the next quote.
So, nächste Zitat.
It says, Satan sees that he's about to lose his case. He cannot sweep in the whole world. He makes one more last desperate effort to overcome the faithful by deception. He does this impersonating Christ. So when he comes here and you go through this time of tribulation, Satan now realizes he cannot get you. Even though he claims the whole world here, he realizes there's still some faithful ones. Okay.
Also wenn er hier kommt und du gehst durch diese Zeit des Trübsals, Satan merkt, also der hat schon die Welt beansprucht als seins, aber er merkt, dass es gibt immer noch diese Treuen hier. Und dann
Yes. So he realizes now he cannot sweep in the whole world. Okay.
so er merkt, dass er die ganze Welt nicht einnehmen
And
kann.
now he makes his last desperate effort impersonating Christ.
Das ist seine letzte verzweifelte Bemühung, indem dass er jetzt Christus vormacht.
He clothes himself with the garments of royalty which have been accurately described in the vision of John. He has power to do this. He will appear to his deluded followers, the Christian world, who received not the love of the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness, transgression of the law, as Christ coming the second time. And now jump down to the next paragraph.
Nächster Absatz.
And this is now speaking about the saints.
Und das spricht hier über den Heiligen.
They, the saints, count all things lost for the excellency of Christ. They could not be bribed or seduced or terrified. They were deaf to the serene song of pleasure, blind to the dazzling splendors presented before them to confuse, to allure their senses. Worldly distractions, ambitions, honors were presented before them, but only to be rejected. Indifferent to the threats and unmoved by terrors of the infernal powers, they could not be overthrown by Satan's devices. One effort more, and then Satan's last device is employed. He hears the unceasing cry for Christ to come, for Christ to deliver them. So we read, when this death decree comes, they start pleading, right, for deliverance.
So, wir haben gehört, als dieses Todesdekret kommt, die fangen an zu flehen für Erlösung.
So Satan hears their unceasing cries for deliverance.
So,
Right?
Satan hört ihre unaufhörliche Rufe, um Befreiung zu haben.
So he hears the unceasing cry for Christ to come, for Christ to deliver them. This last strategy is to personate Christ and make them think their prayers are answered. But this answers to the last closing work, the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place. Okay, so
This is why Job, and when Elihu speaks to him that whole time, Job says, no, he's dumb the whole time, because it marks that cross there where Christ is dumb and he doesn't answer one word.
Das ist, wenn Elihu kommt zu Hiob hier, das markiert auch den Kreuz, wo Christus zum Kreuz geht, der ist stumm. Und Hiob sagt kein Wort zu Elihu.
so here she says, this is then the abomination of
Sie
desolation
sagt, das hier ist der Gräuel der Verwüstung,
That's Luke 21.
standing in the holy place.
der steht im heiligen Ort.
And this was Cestius, right?
Und das war Cestius,
Matthew 24.
Matthäus 24.
Okay, so in this sense, Cestius comes here, but it shows us Cestius will also come here. It's just another, there might be even another fractal. Okay,
Das zeigt, dass Cestius kommt zwar hier, aber der kommt auch hier. Das gibt vielleicht sogar noch ein Fraktal,
okay, because Cestius marks always the beginning.
weil
Okay.
Cestius markiert auch immer das Anfang.
Okay, so okay, and there might be even another fractal in there. Okay,
Es kommt sogar noch ein Fraktal.
because Sister White speaks, we have to specifically study out the seventh plague.
Weil Ellen White sagt, wir sollen ganz spezifisch der 7. Plage ausstudieren.
So basically the whole Bible points to the seventh plague.
So
Okay.
im Grunde, wenn das wäre, die ganze Bibel weist auf den 7. Plage hin.
Okay. Okay. So just as a closing thought,
So nur als ein Schlussgedanke dazu,
it's at the end of your notes.
das ist am Ende der Notizen
Okay. And Daniel 7
in Daniel
Okay.
Kapitel 7.
says, let's just begin in verse 2 and 3.
Wir lesen die Verse 2 und 3.
Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens drove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Okay, so what happens with the four winds here?
So was geschieht mit den 4 Winden hier?
They strive on the sea, right?
Die toben auf das Meer.
So the four winds are loosed. Okay.
So die 4 Winde werden gelöst.
And it marks now the four beasts coming up in this 1260.
Das
Right?
markiert diese 4 Tiere, die während der 1260 heraufkommen.
So therefore, where would this be placed perfectly?
So, wo wäre denn das auf perfekte Weise markiert? Das ist
Yes, also in the seven last plagues, right?
die 7 letzten Plagen.
So these stories, we have to reconsider them and see and understand that they also fit all in the seven last plagues.
Also diese Geschichten, wir müssen sie nochmal in Betracht ziehen und sehen und verstehen, dass sie in den 7 letzten Plagen zu fügen sind.
Okay, the reason, you said Matthew 24, and I get what you're saying, but I said Luke 21, and the reason why I said Luke 21 is in verse 25,
Also es würde gesagt Matthäus 24, aber ich habe Lukas 21 gesagt und es gibt einen Grund dafür. Wenn wir in Lukas 21, Vers 25, Lukas 21 und Vers 25.
it says, there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But if
Bis
you,
Vers 27.
so it's marking the shaking of the heavens and the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars, right?
Markiert der Erschütterung der Himmel und Erde, Sonne, Mond und Stern.
And that's the sixth seal.
Und das ist der 6. Siegel.
So we go to Revelation 6.
Wenn wir zur Offenbarung 6 gehen,
Verse 12.
Offenbarung 6 und Vers 12.
And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth, even as a fig tree cast her untimely figs when she's shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll, and is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved to other places. So that's why I'm saying that the sixth plague, which is parallel to the sixth seal, Satan's going to counterfeit, because it's right before, it's marking a point where Christ is just about to come, right? Because there's signs are coming, so Satan is going to counterfeit it right there.
Das 6. Plage, 6. Siegel, gleich mit den 6. Plage, das ist kurz bevor Christus kommt und da deswegen Satan mit seiner letzten Verführung kommt.
So I'm just, that confirms that.
And
And that's the point where it's cut short, because it's cut short at the end of the shaking of the earth, but then the next point it comes the shaking of the heavens and the earth, which is marks this next.
So, das wäre dann, wo es verkürzt wäre, also und das Verkürzung kommt am Ende von der Erschütterung der Erde, aber am Anfang von Erschütterung der Himmel und Erde.
okay. All right. So I hope that you could follow now better than yesterday and can see the pattern and the parallels.
So, ich hoffe, ihr konntet besser als gestern folgen und dass ihr den Muster und den Parallelen sehen könnt.
And that you also can see and understand that basically the whole Bible speaks mainly about the 7 last plagues.
Und dass ihr sehen könnt, dass die gesamte Bibel spricht hauptsächlich über die 7 letzten Plagen.
And eventually about the 7th plague.
Und letztendlich über der 7. Plage.
But this,
It's the 7 times he went and Jericho.
this
Okay. Weil die 7 Mal um Jericho herumgegangen sind.
okay. All right. So then, if there are no more questions, then let's close with our prayer round.
So, wenn es keine Fragen gibt, dann lasst uns mit unserer Gebetsrunde.